Welcome back. And yes, I have new glasses. Well, today we're going to read a book called The Year I Learned to Fly by author Jacqueline Woodson. And I looked back and I realized we've already read 3 other books by Ms. Woodson. We've read The Other Side, Each Kindness, and The Day You Begin. And today's book is about the power in each one of us to dream a thing and make it happen. So let's read. The Year We Learned to Fly, written by Jacqueline Woodson, illustrations by Rafael Lopez. When Jacqueline was growing up, she used to say she was going to be a teacher or a lawyer or a hairdresser. But even as she said these things, she knew what made her happiest was writing. Rafael was born in Mexico City, and both his parents were architects. But they sent him to an experimental school where he began drawing and painting at an early age. That was the year we learned to fly. That was the spring, when rain seemed like it would never stop, and the thunder boomed so hard we weren't allowed to go outside. Use those beautiful and brilliant minds of yours, my grandmother said. Lift your arms, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and believe in a thing. Somebody somewhere at some point was just as bored as you are now. So, my brother and I closed our eyes. And for a few minutes that first day, we weren't stuck in our apartment anymore. We were flying over the city we'd known our whole lives, but it was suddenly different, exploding with every kind of flower we'd ever dreamed of growing. That was the summer we learned to fly. When my brother and I couldn't stop fussing with each other over whose turn it was to wash the windows, to feed the dog, to clean the kitchen. We fought and frowned and made silent promises to never speak to each other ever again. My grandmother said, "Lift your arms, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and stop being so mean about everything." Somebody, somewhere, at some point, was just as mad as you are now. And so we did. And as the soft wind took us out over the city and past the windows of kids who hadn't yet learned to fly, my brother and I reached for each other's hand, flying and diving and laughing and leaving all of our mad far behind us. This was the autumn our rooms felt too big and lonely, with only us in them and the darkness coming on so fast. But while we hugged ourselves against the too quiet of it all, we remembered that we didn't have to be stuck anywhere anymore. My grandmother had learned to fly from the people who came before. They were aunts and uncles and cousins who were brought here on huge ships, their wrists and ankles cuffed in iron. But, my grandmother said, nobody can ever cuff your beautiful and brilliant mind. So our people learned to fly, she said. They dreamed a thing and made it happen, closed their eyes, and flew away home. Lift your arms, my grandmother said. Close your eyes and remember, somebody, somewhere, at some point, had to figure out how to fly. That was the winter. We moved away from the building and the block and the friends we'd always known to a street where the kids looked at us funny and didn't even answer when we asked them if they wanted to play. "It's okay," I said to my brother. "Somebody at some point had to figure out they were ready for any new thing coming their way." So like the people who came before us, we lifted our arms even higher, closed our eyes even tighter, breathed in even deeper, and flew the way we'd always known how to. Free as the aunties and uncles and cousins who'd come before us, free as our own beautiful and brilliant minds. For a long time, the kids on the ground watched us. Then, one by one, they lifted their arms. One by one, they too learned to fly. The end. So what did you think? Now, I found myself wishing that I could really fly like the kids in this book, but then I realized that the author, Jacqueline Woodson, was just being creative, and that flying was just a way to describe using your imagination, right? She writes, "As a kid," she says, "I always wondered how people were able to survive the horrors of enslavement, but they did. And they passed down their stories and their fables and their memories to the young people coming along after them." She says those stories inspired her to write her own stories, which have helped her get through her own tough times. And next week is Juneteenth, the holiday in the United States commemorating the emancipation of enslaved African Americans. So in her book, The Year We Learned to Fly, Jacqueline is adding to that legacy of stories of encouragement and hope. She hopes that you will remember that everyone will experience a time when no one else is quite like you, when you feel like no one hears you, when you feel very alone. Jacqueline Woodson wants to encourage you to use your imagination to turn those moments of sadness into an opportunity to be brave and find hope. She says, sometimes the first step toward change is closing our eyes, taking a breath, and imagining a different way. And I wondered, did her own grandmother say something like that to her? Where did she get this idea? See you next week. Bye-bye.